Using emotional intelligence in training dogs. It seems to be in dog training that people get really caught up in debating methodology, technique, and those sorts of details about dog training. But what I have found, regardless of how someone trains, the one thing that really makes a big difference in their success as a trainer is how well they utilize emotional intelligence while training dogs. So today we're going to look at kind of the 5 key points of using emotional intelligence in training dogs. So before you even start training your dog, you want to take a moment to think about, what is your goal for that session? What are you trying to teach them? What do the steps look like of how to achieve that goal? What rewards are you going to use? Where are you going to train your dog? What stages are they in that training process? Then you're going to take a look at what could go wrong. So say it's not going according to plan, what's your response going to be? Are you going to reset? Are you going to try something different? Or are you just going to end the session and then maybe do some more problem solving to see if you can figure out a more effective way to teach that skill? Now you're just executing. You are just doing those steps that you had planned out. This is not a time to think too hard. You need to be reacting to what's happening in front of you, and you need to just do it. You need to try things, and you need to just experiment and actually see what of your plan is working and what is not working. If you don't like what's happening, just stop. Now it's time to sit down and analyze how it went. What worked? What didn't work? Did it end up at all how you had planned? Are you on the right track, or do you need to rethink your whole strategy? This is the time when you problem solve all of that. It's also a time to think back and think about, what did your dog's expressions look like? What were they telling you with their responses to the things that you were trying? Were they staying engaged? Were they getting more engaged? Or were you struggling to keep their interest? Were you fighting the distractions around you? Think about all that. Think about how your rewards worked and how they didn't work, and just kind of spend some time thinking about those things so that when you start to plan your next training session, you can take all of those things into account. Your mind can't be elsewhere. You can't expect a dog to connect with you and stay focused on you when you're sitting there thinking about what you have to make for dinner or that argument that you had with somebody that morning. Your mind has to be right there in that moment on what your plan is and what those steps are, and reading and reacting to what the dog is doing in front of you. You can't do those things if you're not present in that moment with the dog. So at the beginning of a training session, you may have to take a few deep breaths and kind of center yourself and really just empty your mind of all those thoughts. Kind of have an idea of what it is I want to train, but really just kind of organically letting the moment take me where I go. And a lot of times I end up maybe drifting from what the goal of that session was that I had so carefully planned out, because what the dog is actually taking me to is someplace very different. And a lot of times I actually end up making huge strides in another area, and then on another day I can come back to that goal that I had. So if you can't be present, just stop. Let your dogs know you love them and save it for another day. Trust me, in the long run, it'll be far more effective. So the other thing is that you need to be really aware and know your own moods and emotional states. It's really hard to display good emotional intelligence with training dogs when your own emotional mood is somewhere where it's just not going to be very conductive for good training. So say you have a headache, or you didn't get a lot of sleep last night, or you've got a million things on your mind, and you just know it's going to be really hard for you to focus and to stay present. Well, that's a good day to just do something look like when they're engaged and interested. Are they looking at you with a little wagging tail, and their eyes are bright and sparkly? They're all happy and excited about what's going to happen. You know that they're ready to engage in whatever it is that you want to do. They've got their kind of confused, perplexed face where you're saying something, you're saying sit, and they're looking at you like, you know, that sounds familiar. I'm just not quite sure what that means. Right? They're trying, and you can tell that they're thinking, even though they're not doing what you want them to do. That's a very different face than the, you know what, this is just way too hard, screw you, I'm out of here face that they have. There's also the, I'm here and I am looking at you. but I am not really here. Look, my golden retriever Butters is the master of this face, but he has that down to where he can be in complete and utter compliance, but completely uninterested in what it is that you have to say in that moment. You want to know what all those looks look like so that you can react accordingly. You're matching your emotional responses to kind of that emotional state that you want your dog to be in, right? So if I look down at my dog, I'm trying to teach sit, and I don't see that happy, engaged, exciting face looking at me, and instead I see, oh God, here we go again. I'm not even gonna try to sit in that moment. I'm gonna try to be excited and be like, hey, don't you love to play this game? I'm gonna mirror to them that happy, emotional, bouncy face that I see from them whenever they're engaged with me. So I can use kind of the human equivalent of those emotional responses to actually communicate with my dog to say, hey, I'm engaged, I'm excited, I'm happy, let's do this, so that they can go to that point. I don't want them to look up at me and see all right, I'm here, I don't really want to be here, but gosh, I've got to train you to sit, so here we go, right? I don't want that face on my dog, so I'm not going to use that face when I approach the training. If I'm happy with what my dog's done and I want to reward them, I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy, good girl, yay, right? I'm going to be using that happy, bouncy, engaged face as I give that cookie. I'm not just going to, good girl, here you go, right? I want engaged and happy and really lit up and fired up about training. So that's how I'm going to be when I'm happy and I've liked what they've done and I'm giving them a cookie. I'm not going to let that cookie be the whole emotional response. I'm going to match everything with my actual emotions. I'm seeing their face that says, sit. Now I've heard that before, but I'm not exactly sure what that means. I'm going to have a, you can do it, kind of grin, a little smile, like a little encouragement. I'm going to brighten my eyes. I'm going to try to hold their engagement and let them know, yeah, you're on your way. Keep trying, right? I'm going to help hold them in that moment to get them trying a little bit more, rather than giving them again that face of like, oh my God, I can't believe you're not getting this. This is so painful. Trying to sort it out is still better than a dog giving up and walking away. So I'm going to hold that moment with my emotions to keep them in the game and to keep them trying. If I don't like what they're doing, say I'm trying to teach, like Emily when she was young was real barky, real high-pitched, sharp little bark. And sometimes when I was trying to teach her something, she would try to add a little bark into it. And I wasn't real keen on having a dog that would kind of bark in my face during a trick. So when that bark would come up, my face would just go dead. Not angry, I'm not yelling at her, I'm just like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, really, you've got a bark in my face? And it was just an instant, the second the bark would come out, the face would go dead, and then as soon as she was quiet again, that little, you can do it, encouraging face would come back out. So you can use your emotions to convey some information, and not everything has to be yes and no, right? You can kind of like use that, those softer expressions and those kind of transitions between the expressions to help keep the dog on. Once you have truly mastered dog training, what you'll see is that you actually just naturally go through these steps, and it's not something that takes so much time where you have to get out your paper and pencil and you know, plan your whole day around that. But it becomes a very natural, organic process. Once you have achieved that experience in dog training, you'll flow through these things naturally. But in the beginning, you kind of have to plan it out that way to train yourself how to think that way and how to separate between that kind of analytical brain that thinks too hard and that creative, intuitive brain that's reading what's happening in the moment. That's the piece that if you're really good at that, you're going to see your dog training improve so much more. And boop, boop, and boop. Good girl. Boop. Good girl.